police who are searching for the missing Burnley mum Katie Kenyon believe that she is no longer alive and have launched a murder investigation.
Police were questioning a 50-year-old man on suspicion of kidnapping.
Has now been further arrested and is being questioned in connection with murdering the mother of two.
These guys outside are concerned about Katie. Do you know where she is?
Yeah, no, I don't. What's happened is that I got a text at 2:30
today.
Yeah, saying I came to your house this morning. I'll show you the text. It's just
From Katie?
Yeah.
Right.
But when I picked the kids up from school and came home, the keys are down behind the door. So we came into the keys behind the door, so she's been.
Sorry, back to the items she's dropped. Do we have a time frame of when we think she'll drop those items off?
I dropped my kids off at 8:30 at school at 8:30. Came back this morning, got my kids from bed, and I was probably here for about 1:15 and then I went to work.
Where do you think she'll be now? Oh, she's obviously driven a car down here, hasn't she?
Yeah, she's parked it, but came down here. What's she done from there?
They are concerned that Andrew Burfield may know the whereabouts of their loved one, and he distanced himself completely, says, "I've not seen Katie, I've no idea what you're talking about, nothing to do with it, I've no idea." He even goes on to the extreme of showing them on an iPhone 8 phone and showing them a series of messages that are purported to have come from Katie. The family equally will say, "We've received a load of messages purported to be from Katie, but we are certain and adamant they have not come from Katie."
She told me she was on a walk.
She what, sorry?
She told me, she said she dropped the car off this morning and the stuff. Before that message came through, so what you up to, that's me, what you up to, guys? And that were at 1:30, and she put, just out on a walk. You?
The contents of the message, the makeup of the messages, inside the messages, the language, the grammar, the punctuation.
Spelled the dog's name wrong.
Yeah, all completely inconsistent with how Katie would write ordinarily.
Will you just try ringing a number for us? Is the phone still on?
I don't know, I've been ringing it.
Is it ringing or is it going to voicemail? Or?
Went to voicemail.
Hiya Babs, I'm at work. Listen, I've just got your message. Will you please ring me? I'm a bit worried. Just ring me. You don't have to do this. I'm not worried about the money. I'm not worried about the money. Just ring me, please. I love you.
If you were to go looking for Katie now, where would you go? First place you'd go? Pendle.
She can't come on.
So how would she get there? Would she walk?
Probably.
After dropping the keys off here for the car, you'd seriously think she'd walk to Pendle from here from around 2 o'clock this afternoon?
Sorry to interrupt. So are you concerned for Katie?
Yeah.
So how come, have you reported any of this?
No, because it's only just happened. I've had a sister
But you said them messages come at 2:30.
Yeah,
this
so the message come through at 1:45.
Yeah.
And you've replied pretty much straight away. I know, I'm just wondering, because you said it's only just happened, but it's happened at like 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, but I picked the kids up. I came here at 4. To be honest with you, I thought it was just like, I don't know, I'm still out.
So you weren't concerned?
I were, but I weren't, if you will.
Okay.
So yeah, so she just...
Is this out of character for her to just disappear like that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how come you thought she were just being silly, but now you're concerned?
So she's asked him to look after kids. She's going to go away, get herself sorted, make herself a better person. When she comes back, it's going to be everything that they want to do.
She's not much can't carry on like this. She's posted a car keys through in the green stuff in case he wants to sell it.
Yeah. But he's given her £6,000 that she says she's going to use as payment to get herself into a rehab place and get herself sorted.
Despite him having taken her to court saying, you know, because she owes him £6,000, he's then given her £6,000, which is like mind games again.
But he's had these messages from just before 2 today, but he's not reported them. He sent messages back saying like, what the hell is going on here, this is weird. But he's not reported them missing at that point, even as his concern.
So that launches obviously into the inquiry. They then do some quick work around ANPR and different things, and the phone cell sighting to see where Katie's phone's going. That shows the phone going right up towards Gisborne Forest. So when we know the phone's going up towards Gisborne Forest, it's up there for a period of probably around about 51 minutes. And then on the ANPR data and the cameras and the CCTV work that's been done, we now know that Katie is in that vehicle when it travels up to Gisborne Forest. The concerning factor is, when the vehicle comes back, Katie is no longer present in that vehicle, but her phone is.
The last sighting of Katie Kenyon was around 9:30 on Friday morning, when a woman matching her description was seen getting into a silver transit van with a man in Burnley.
That's the immediate concern. That's massively inconsistent with what Burfield has said in his initial assertion of, I've no idea what you're talking about, I've never seen her. So then subsequently, when we go and speak to him again as part of the missing from home inquiry, it was like a hot day, middle of April, and the police have gone in to speak to him, and the house is described as being like an inferno. It's red hot. It turns out he's actually got his log burner raging, and the decision is made to lock him up on suspicion of kidnap. So they've locked him up on suspicion of kidnap, and we then start to do urgent interviews with him. Those urgent interviews, he still maintains that denies not knowing where Katie is.
It's a very simple question, Andrew. Can you tell me where Katie is?
I can't. I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. So is there any clue you can give us as to where she might be?
I did give you a clue early on. I think she's at a rehab centre.
A rehab centre?
Or some sort of clinic.
Right, okay. And where would that be?
I haven't got a clue.
We start to launch a massive inquiry, the purpose being to try and find Katie safe and well, on the belief potentially she is still safe and well up in the forest. You can imagine it's like about a 25-mile radius around Gisborne Forest. It is massive. So massive operation in terms of air support, helicopters, planes, all kinds of things with heat source cameras trying to search the forest. We've got multiple search teams up there, underwater search, mountain rescue, you name it, everybody is up in that forest, cadaver dogs, everybody's up there. But even though we've got all these vast amount of resources, we were sort of conscious through running this at the beginning that the area which we've got to sort of search through is so vast, it's almost a bit like needle in a haystack, so we need to narrow that down. Hence we did the sort of significant media appeal to see if we get any witnesses that could help us narrow that process. What we then find is that one witness comes forward who says, we think we've seen that vehicle and it's parked at one of the search areas that we were looking to address and search, so we could prioritise that search area. Equally from the media appeal, what also was identified was that Burfield is a builder, and we find that he'd been working, doing some building work and address. They've said, I've had a weird conversation with him. I've had a weird conversation on Saturday the 23rd of April, and it's weird in this context. He's turned up kind of at about 8:15 in the morning, which was unexpected. Didn't expect him to be here at 8:15, but I've woke. Yeah, unusual.
It only works when the kids are at school, in school run time. So weekend, 8:15.
Yeah.
Isn't what he does.
Yeah, so they've kind of like, well, fair enough, he's still doing some work here. They enter into an unusual conversation around his inquiring as to when the bins are likely to be taken and when his bin day. At which point they just thought, a bit odd, but thought nothing of it. The media appeal comes in, and then they realise Katie's missing. They're aware that Katie's ex-partner of Andrew Burfield, and they thought, well, why is he asking about the bins? When they've checked in their bin, they then find that underneath, buried under their refuge, is another bag with bags within bags that contain a pair of flip-flops that seem to match those of Katie's visually. What we now know is in those bags also was a number of heavily blood-stained bags. So at which point then we've thought and believed they potentially could be Katie's. And that's the first time we believe potentially she'd come to some sort of harm. To what degree, we still didn't know, but we were certainly concerned that potentially she'd come to harm. So we fast-tracked all those bags in terms of trying to get them to determine whether or not they are Katie's or otherwise. And we continued the interview process with Burfield.
I believe that you want to speak to us today, so I'm just going to hand it over to you to tell us what you want to say.
We parked the van up and we went to our site, which we always go to. I say always, we've only been twice.
Right.
And that's where she still is.
That's where she still is. Okay.
He's changed his rhetoric completely. So from previously he's not seen Katie, now he has seen Katie. He accepts he's taken her up to the forest area, and he accepted the killing of Katie. but he did it on the basis of an accidental killing.
So we don't know what went wrong. You were aiming at the tree and...
No, I can't even say I slipped, fell, like nothing. I just don't even know what went wrong. It's the stupidest thing that I'll ever do that. Something so stupid.
How close was she from you?
About 8 feet, 10 feet. There's no help there, you know, there's nothing.
No.
No people. No signal on her phone, they can't carry her. Carry her. Sort of a boyfriend can't carry your own girlfriend.
Talk me through these next seconds then. This has happened now.
I just don't know what I'm doing, honestly. I'm covered in blood. I just go to her straight away.
So following that, he then says, in his interview account, wasn't it? He says he's gone back to his van. When he gets back to his van, he has gone in there to consider about whether or not, oh my God, I might have to kill myself now. I'll take my own life, as you say, because I'm concerned about what's occurred. He has a bit of a reflection moment, thinks, you know what, I've not got my finances in order, and plus I've not brought my nail gun with me. Perhaps I need to give myself a bit of time to get everything in order. So he then makes the decision to go back to the actual scene, which is approximately 70 metres away from the road, at which point then makes the decision to dig a shallow grave, place Katie within the grave, and then cover it up again and leave in order to get his finances in order. So that is the assertion that he has given in that interview.
The thing is, Andrew, you've told us a lot over the last few days, haven't you? And you've told us a lot, certainly today, a lot of information. And a lot of it just does not add up, okay? And ultimately, we don't believe you of what you've said, okay? But do not believe that this has been an accident. This is about your control and your over Katie, and you're losing the control. That there have been plans to go up to Scotland. She even says that you had said that you were going to buy a house and that you've got a portfolio of a number of houses.
That's not relevant to this, I don't get it.
The way it's relevant is because it's about you, Andrew, and the fact that you have told lies, you tell lies to women, and you're manipulating these relationships to control, and you fantasise about a life that you would want to have.
That's not a crime, is it?
That's not a crime.
Is it?
Because we're building to the fact that this hasn't just happened on Friday, as you have tried to account for this morning. That what we're saying is that hasn't happened, okay? It's you have not dug that hole in the 10 minutes that you have said to us.
It might have been longer, but I'm not saying anything now.
It might have been longer. Right, okay.
I don't know how long we were there, do I? All I'm saying is I dug all that bit.
We know how long you were there, and you haven't had long enough.
Katie herself even had her concerns about you. She even told her own sister. And basically what she said to her sister was, if I go missing, it will be him, meaning you, who's done it.
The difficulty we've got is negating the assertion that this was an accident without finding Katie. We need Katie in order to, one, bring closure to the family, two, for Katie as well, we don't want her to be left somewhere in a shallow grave, but evidentially we also need to get Katie's body to confirm and negate that it's an accidental act through pathology, which clearly we haven't got. So the search parameters indicated from other dog handlers that we thought they potentially identified a shallow grave.
Yeah, where the witness had seen the van.
Yeah.
His van's got quite a distinctive panel. I don't know if you remember, on the side it had a bit of work done, so it had quite a distinctive panel, which is how this guy could be really adamant about where it had been parked and really specific about time, and that it was that van. So that linked him with what the G&P dog handlers and our pulsers were seeing at the scene. Gave us quite a strong hope that we'd found her, or found where she would be. Really, no words were spoken. Even he really didn't say anything. No one said anything. He's got his solicitor with him. Your other risk with it is escape as well, isn't it? So you've got there's lots of injury to the team. There's so many risks involved with that. But actually, our priority was for the family to find Katie. So you have to kind of run those risks to get the result we need.
This is where the picnics.
Okay. Stand up for me, Andrew.
But as much as we were hopeful we found her, there was a couple of things that were unusual as well, weren't it, about that grave, in terms of unusual, like, for example, if you had to place a body inside a grave, the void the size of one of us inside a grave, you would expect to create a mound subsequently. You wouldn't have a perfectly flat surface. This had a perfectly flat surface. It was finished impeccably to a point where you would not even realise a grave was there. If you're going to listen to his account and you know that he's been there for 51 minutes, if you're going to dig a hole in order to put somebody into as part of a grave, you would expect that was done in haste. You'd expect you would dig a hole very, very quickly, not taking time and precision over it. What he has actually done, he's actually taken layers. So he took a layer of topsoil, a layer of soil, put them on the side, a layer of clay, put it on the side. So actually, when you start to excavate, there's no difference in the two types of soil. So this part here looks like the same as this, looks like it's been undisturbed because it's been layered back exactly as it's been taken away.
So he's put like the clay back where the clay.
Exactly. So there's no anomalies.
And then the moss, branches, and weirdly a tree root has gone right over the top.
If you were doing it to the precision that he's done it and actually left it so impeccably, then how would you ever have done that in the time available? It's just not feasible.
Obviously we're all aware of the position we're in around this job in terms of what we've got for the investigation. As we know, Burfield has claimed his attack on Katie to be an accidental act. So the way I want to structure this today in terms of this briefing is we're going to start first and foremost around any updates we've got from a defence perspective that may be different to what he's previously asserted during his police interview, and then I'll cover it around three main headings. One, what evidence we've got over the last few weeks around the actual act of killing. Two, any evidence we've gathered around the premeditation. And three, the actions post Katie being killed, so what we actually know in relation to that and what's become apparent around those three things. So that's the way I want to structure today's briefing if we can. I think on the day that Katie is killed, 51 minutes is what we talked about. Well, if you think about what he's actually suggesting, I think, and I have to get you might confirm me and correct me on this, I understood it to be maybe up to about 6 minutes to drive from the last CCTV site up to the actual place where we know the vehicle was parked from a witness perspective. So 6 minutes on two ways of that journey, knocks another 12 minutes off, takes us down to 39 minutes. Then you've got the walk from where the vehicle was parked, the 60 metres into the forest, which we expect Katie's done in flip-flops, and then you've got the fact his suggestion is that from there he's walked back to the van where he's obviously had this moment of thinking about what he's going to do, about the fact he's killed her, whatever's gone on in the forest area, setting a picnic blanket out, chopping firewood, end up killing her, administer first aid, then walk back 60 metres back to the van, and then decide he's not got a nail gun there to obviously harm himself, and then come to the conclusion he's going to dig a grave and walk back again another 60 metres. Your time frame is just collapsing down all the time, to a point I would argue, based on his account, you've not even got 30 minutes. And the contrast for that is that we've got the support unit staff who are saying it takes nearly an hour just for them to fill in the grave, which was not dug like a hole. So if you're going to dig this hole, we've said this all the way through and consistently, you dig the hole, you do it in panic. He has not, he's layered it. The archaeology says he has layered this. It's not a quick job, this. It's not something that's even feasible within there. And on that note, Simon, I've not actually read it yet, but I know we've got Ali's statement from an archaeologist.
I haven't read it in detail, I've only skimmed through it, but that's pretty much what it says, that the different levels of soil have been taken out and, in her opinion, put separately rather than just taken out in a mass, as in you just frantically digging a hole, and the top of it then has been taken out in as if it, like bits of turf or whatever, so it can then be laid back flat over the top. You add into that, as well as Dave described at one of the other briefings, about the root that's part cut and bent back. He does suggest in his interviews that he's a good digger. Well, I'm paraphrasing. When asked about that, he does say, I'm good at digging, so I could do it in that time. But I don't think he could do it the way it's been described, certainly.
The precision as well, because it's narrow, isn't it? It's narrow at the feet end, it's wider at the head end, it's deeper at the head end.
There was something I read, it looked like it might have had to be made bigger.
Yeah.
I think, which is an interesting, and that again from Ali's statement was that maybe the first hole that was dug wasn't big enough to fit her in, so there's been some further digging that's been done at some stage afterwards.
It's left it tidy enough, hasn't it, that it took, we didn't find it.
No.
Moving that on a little bit, witness perspective, anything we've got new witness-wise? Anything that you've seen, Simon, is reading?
There's lots of stuff around. We've got quite a few of his ex-partners, which is interesting, that he's quite a controlling and a Walter Mitty type character, it seems, with an awful lot of his ex-partners promising this and not actually going through. And meeting people in all sorts of varieties of mediums. He's on dating sites and online and sort of dropping into people's messages on Facebook and Instagram and stuff into hello, how are you? And there's talk about quite a lot of inappropriate talk on single ladies that he's gone doing building work for. Hello, where's your husband? And are you single? And this, that and the other. So he looks like he's continually out and about looking for potential partners is probably the wrong word, but women that he can form relationships with, and there's a couple that I've read where he's taken money off them, one of whom has gone through the same process with him that he's done with Katie, as in they've served a letter on him from the court saying, I've given you this money and you owe me it back, whether that's what's given him the idea to do it. But yeah, it's certainly that's coming out from a perspective of what sort of a person he was.
So on the 8th of March, the debt company received an email from Katie saying that Burfield's going to pay the balance. He's going to pay the debt off, she tells him on the 8th. And then on the 9th, he's sending that, saying, put more pressure on her to get the money off her.
To the previous one, and we've got messages being sent between the two of them, and he's saying, I'll sort it for you, don't worry.
Yeah.
And then he's going straight to doing that. I think that we need that in personally, because you're giving him, you're showing what an evil.
Yeah, he's really playing with her head, isn't he?
Yeah.
And then that message comes up from her saying, I don't know what he's going to do next, when he is doing all this stuff that she doesn't know about behind the scenes. So on the 25th, he rings them to request an update on the case. He stated that Miss Kenyon's had been to his address giving him abuse and asking why the £200 paid. So he's then playing the other side again as soon as...
Now breathe and calm down.
It's all control, isn't it?
In terms of the sort of level of premeditation, how long he's been thinking of murdering her for, so we know that she goes missing and is killed on the 22nd of April. What becomes really clear for us is those messages that I touched on before that the family will say Katie categorically has not written. So she was looking at, they were saying because of the language, grammar, punctuation, as you said, spelling the simple things like the dog incorrectly. When you actually look at that through a different lens, what we now know is those messages that have been sent to her children, to other family members, so multiple different people that they're saying not come from Katie. They've been written and have been produced by Burfield in about, well, certainly 2 to 3 weeks prior to Katie's death. So what we've looked at is, when we've seized his iPhone, what we're able to establish is that on the 17th of March 2022, if you look at your iCloud account, you know, your notes section of your phone, people might put the shopping list or something similar in there. These messages, and they are vast in nature, they're like really long messages, these, they had already been created on the 17th of March. By the 4th of April, those messages existed in exactly the format that they were actually subsequently sent. So what we believe is, when he's murdered Katie, he has brought her phone back with him in order to use that, in order to send messages to suggest that she was still alive. And he used to, in order to do that, he's transferred messages from his own phone onto Katie's phone that he can onwardly send to other people. But the most chilling part of that is, that's like, what, certainly 18 days prior to Katie's murder. So it's clearly premeditated.
This for me is quite important, and this needs to be evidenced in full. And basically what this is, on the 1st of April, there's 28 phone activity records that show the device has been used to access notes. When you think about writing a note, 28 notes on one day is quite significant.
Yeah, it is.
You know, so I think that in itself is quite important, knowing that we know on the 2nd and 4th the key dates that we're using in evidence, the key notes we're using in evidence are edited on those days.
Yeah.
And then the next bit, so the WhatsApp messages sent between Katie Kenyon and Andrew Burfield from 1st to 4th, 9:37 to 11:24, make reference to him having a way to help her and that she'll see soon enough.
Because I think, that 28 phone activity records on the 1st to the 4th probably sits as somewhere within the sequence as a slide, just to say.
Yeah, and at the same time, she's stressed. If you read the messages at the same time, she's stressed. And he's basically saying, don't worry, I can help you. I'm on with it. I'm actually on with it now. He's like, you'll see soon enough, Katie. And it's quite eerie when you read it. Like, at the same time, he's creating and editing these notes.
Yeah.
So,
I think he is, as you say, he's piling the pressure on her to make sure that she is beholden to him and she's not just going to cut off contact and leave him, because he's got this plan in place that he started back on the 17th, so he needs to keep contact with her in order to put that plan in place, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is, everything else is about reeling her in and then stressing her and then reeling her back in again and stressing her.
So 7 weeks prior to trial, we want to run through the whole chronology of the events that have taken place and associated evidence, just to check, one, for accuracy, to check if there's any anomalies in there because it needs to be correct and accurate, and secondly, to check if there's any sort of new developments that have taken place that would inform that position from an SLE or sequence of events perspective. So that's the purpose of today. He has now accepted that he's been at the forest the day before. He claims around that was down to he's had his brakes done in his car, he was bedding his brakes in, he's travelled up to the forest area to walk his dog. The reason that becomes so significant for me is a number of different things. So we already knew that he'd been up to the forest area, but what we also now know is that when they've done the excavation work around the grave, tell me if you know this, but what we've also done around the excavation work around the grave is we find 2 different sets of footwear at the base of the grave. So one of those is a block, one of those is a zigzag. Now, straight away that indicates that either a number of different hypotheses sit around those. One is that 2 people that have been to the grave, as it could have been 2 people involved in the commission of offence. Now that's largely eliminated straight off because he accepts he's the only person there. That's consistent with the CCTV. Everything else that's taken place that is negated to a large extent, which then begs the question, why 2 sets of footwear? So you're going to have that for one of 2 reasons. Either you've worn 2 different sets of footwear during the digging of that grave that took place over 2 days, which is what we believe to be the case, or what makes it more likely that to be the favoured hypothesis is because there's narrowing time frames. So if you recall, there's only a 51-minute period of him entering into the forest, parking the vehicle, and him going into the woods, obviously engaging in setting up a picnic, suggesting that something has happened during that period, coming away, having killed her, tried to administer first aid, according to his account, and then come back to the van, collect his spade, have a bit of deliberation, going back. It's just implausible you would dig that grave in that complex way within that collapsing time frame. If you're going to suggest that in between all of that you change your shoes during a period of panic, it's completely collapsing that time frame again even further to what you had previously. So the likelihood of that is significantly less. It's the latter bit that I would say that sits around each of those. But again, as much as that's my observation, that's something we need to work with the experts around the archaeology, the botany, the pathology, to actually overlap what my view would be around that footwear. The footwear that we've got recovered, we have recovered from him zigzags in terms of trainers and blocks in terms of his work boots. So they are a little rich detail to actually make a direct comparison. They are enough to say they are consistent with those two sets of footwear. Now, interestingly, some of that footwear was concealed under items within his address. So I would be fairly confident that collectively and holistically, when you consider this, they are likely to the correct footwear. Today's meeting is predominantly around the sequence of events which Brian is going through to check for the accuracy before we're now 7 weeks before court.
At 3:35, and he turns up at Dad's house. See what he's wearing. He's got those Reebok trainers on, he's got a spade. And that distinctive black panel on the side of the van that helped the member of the public identify it. So everyone, in his defence case statement, he's saying that he goes up on the 21st of April, he goes up to that area to walk the dog, and he drives up there to bed his brakes in because he's just had his brakes done. So at 19:54, just been out with eggs, the dog had tea, and now there's a match on, so just chilling. But we know different, don't we?
That's him passing the last CCTV opportunity towards the forest, and he passes her at 20:13. It then takes him up until about 20:32 to arrive at where the burial site is. So he's had from 20:32, just doing some rough calculations, 20:32 to 21:31, so give or take an hour at the site to dig the hole, and then that gives him about 18 minutes or so, 19 minutes or so to then get back. And if you just go for and to hit that camera, then returning. So what we've done is we've timed the journeys, so we know how long it takes between that camera site and the dig site, having got out on foot, walked from where he parked, and then timed it all, and it's given him about an hour at the dig site.
So he reattaches, turns his phone back on about 22:03, and there's his van. And here arrives Katie. And that's from across the road, so her going into the front door, which you don't ever catch him doing because he always enters round the back.
Until he comes back and the stuff's on the doorstep.
Yeah. Which on that time he conveniently comes through the front door. So Katie's phone travels even though his doesn't. And again, we can't see footwear or anything like that. But we can see that they're both in the van. Last sighting on CCTV of Katie alive at 9:50. So, Burfield's van, seen parked in the lay-by on Hull House Lane by our member of the public, which you've got on the drone footage. Bone travelling back down. So this time we've got the footage, so Dave's done the same bit of work. Dave, do you want to talk through that one?
The previous shot is a 2-minute drive to where he parks up, 90-second walk to where Katie was buried. I've simply worked out, doubled it, and then worked out he's had 42 minutes at the dig site to then get back to these camera sites.
Here he is coming home. So all this minutes of coming back and then messaging her, what are you up to? And she says, just out on a walk, what about you? Well, she doesn't. He does. Right, go on. Talk us through this, Tom.
During that 6 minutes, it's like frantic in between WhatsApp notes. So as referred to earlier, we're saying that this is him amending those notes that he'd written 2 or 3 weeks ago, for example, changing morning to afternoon and changing the odd emoji, that type of thing. When she turns it off, when he
her phone turns off,
it's at his house.
Yeah, and that's the last time it connects to that.
Yeah, and that's actually inside his house.
Yeah. And there's not really more to say about that, is there? Switched off, and we don't obviously know what happens to it. He says he burns it on the fire. And then he's creating his messages to Katie, isn't he?
These are just written at the time.
Yeah, he's just typing them, trying to make it look good, isn't he? And then this is the voicemail that we got at the time, wasn't it? His acting skills. I think we should play this to the court. I think I've mentioned that to him, but I'll write it down again just in case. You can embed that.
Oh yeah, they can do that.
100 pages to go, everyone. So he's continuing with his messages to her. Just phone me when you can. You've turned your phone off again. Just know when you're ready to talk, and I'm here. I support you in any way I can. Love you. Remember that. And another voicemail message from him.
That's the more impactful one.
Yeah.
That's when he says, "What do you want me to do? Kids are ringing. I haven't got a clue."
Just give us a ring whenever you can. It doesn't have to be like this. We can sort it out. Whatever help you need, whatever you need from me, or anybody else. I just need to know you're safe and where you're going, that's all. What do you want me to do? Go and get the dog today? Tonight? Kids ringing me? I don't, just let me know what's happening. I ain't got a clue. Please. I love you.
So 17:28 he's calling Katie, and then at 17:46 his message, "How's your day been?" "Not too good. I'm fed up. How's your day been?" "Yeah, my day's been good. I'm home now. Work was great as always." And then we see Jenny arrive at Burfield's house. Jenny's on to him. She knows. And this is from the body cam footage when the cops turn up to talk to him. Thank you all very much. You've all worked ridiculously hard on this job, and that is proof of where we're up to, so keep going, and thank you all. It'll take 5 minutes because it's a rough ride, that.
Andrew Burfield changed his plea to guilty 3 days into his trial for killing Katie Kenyon, who was from Padiham.
Burfield had claimed he killed Katie by accident. Yesterday, he changed his plea to guilty.
The judge told the 51-year-old that he should prepare himself that he might die in jail. Has been jailed for a minimum of 32 years for her murder.
Today, with Burfield starting a life sentence, the profound loss and permanent harm that Burfield had caused to Katie Kenyon's children would never be erased.
The family have also asked me to personally thank every person who's been involved in the case to bring Katie's killer to justice. They also think it's important to express who Katie was, and the family have given me a few words that I'm now going to read on their behalf. Katie's a happy, loving mum of 2. She had a whole life ahead of her. Katie was beautiful and silly. She had a truly beautiful soul. She always surrounded herself with children, her own and anybody else's who wanted to join in. She would take kids and the dogs everywhere with her. She'd even try to set up summer camp for the local children so they had something to do and somewhere to go. She loved the outdoors and she loved people. We miss her very much beyond words, and we will never get to express our loss.
To me, Katie was a funny, caring soul who was loved by many and also loved many. As a sister though, quite argumentative as well, but I suppose that's just sister love, yeah.
Mine's just the same as yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, just funny, silly, beautiful. The best mum to her kids.
she lived for her children. And
the dog.
And the dog. Don't forget the dog. No.
But yeah, that were her life. It was the children, the dog,
And everybody
and outdoors.
else. Yeah, and outdoors.
And how much do you miss her?
Oh, millions.
Words can't describe.
They can't.
You've just
Yeah.
took the words out of my mouth.
Just no words to describe her. So
No.
It hurts.
Even like, you think, oh, it'll be first birthday, first Christmas.
It's every day.
It'll be, yeah,
It
I
is
don't
every
think
day.
it will be first birthday and first Christmas. It'll be every birthday,
It is every day.
every Christmas, every milestone, and then every day to day.
I mean, obviously, when I go to walk the dogs, it's me then, because it was always me and Katie walking them dogs.
That's what I
Now
mean.
it- now
It's just everyday
me.
things.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning and Katie's picture's there, and I get to wake up and live my life, and she's not here anymore.